Good morning to dear participants. In this session, we are going to discuss about item set mining based upon the web usage pattern. In today's internet era, so because of the COVID-19 also, everything we are doing over your internet for every purchase or even education, everything is going online. So the data that is available over your internet is high. Right? So we must be having an efficient way for mining the information, such vast amount of data. So in this scenario, we are going in for your item set mining. So first we shall have an introduction about, we will be slowly moving into the item set mining. So generally we can, those who know what, we can brush it. For others, it will be like what is actually web mining. So first we can see what is a web. As we all know what, World Wide Web. We are going to have several web pages we are having on. So web pages, they are created using hypertext document. So it is going to be widely distributed, a heterogeneous, semi-structured document. Each web page, the content we have, we can call it as a semi-structured document. So we have the three categories of data. One is structured, semi-structured, as well as unstructured documents. So this web, it comes into the semi-structured document. So all the pages, so we are having multiple pages. They must be interconnected to give a valid information. So they are interconnected and they are available on one or more of your web servers. So a web is going to be a huge collection of a document plus it contains the hyperlink information. The hyperlink information in the sense how one page is going to be linked to other pages. Okay. So the next one is the access and the usage information. How the page is being accessed, how it is being used by the users. So for that we use a web. So the next we can see an interesting survey on by 2020 how the internet is being used in a minute. So if you see here in Instagram, so nearly 3,47,000 users post stories every minute. So if you see YouTube, so nearly 500 hours of video they are uploaded every minute. So if you see WhatsApp here, you see here 4 crores of people are sending a message per minute. So similarly, Amazon per minute it is shipping nearly 6,600 ships, the packages over the ships, right? So all these things are happening in 2020. So they are drastically increasing. Okay, so everything it has to be gone through the internet. So now, so now we are becoming people who are producing the data. So we are accessing the data. So when you are uploading a video, you are a data producer. You are a data generator. See here in Microsoft Teams, the nearly 50,000 persons are nearly 50,000 persons. 50,000 users are connecting per minute. In Zoom, if you are seeing 2 lakh persons are connecting per minute. So as a result of it, we are becoming the data generator. So the data that is available in your web is going, it is exponentially increasing today. So now the part is with the persons who are mining the data. So web mining is, so from this large amount of data, so we have to, the data is, it may be a video, audio, text, we are saying it. It is a mixed type of data. So what we have to do is from this data, so we have to extract some meaningful information. How we are going to extract it? For extracting such meaningful information, so we have to apply the data mining technique. So one such technique is going to be the item set mining. How we are going to extract the meaningful information. Right? So the next part, we can go in for the different types of web mining. So we have web content mining, web usage mining, and web structure mining. So these are the main classifications of our web mining. So first one, it is your web content mining. From the name it says, it depends on the content we display in your web page. So from this, how we are going to extract the useful knowledge. Okay, so that it is going to be the web content mining. So the content of your web page, as we have already discussed, it may be text, image, audio, or video. So with this content mining, what we can do? What are the different applications of it? So nowadays, the search engines, suppose you are taking a Google search engine, what happens is we are typing. So I want to know the information about item set mining. So if I'm typing there, what happens is This item set mining will be taken and it will be compared with all the pages which is having content of the item set mining. They are going to be compared. If items containing contents is there, it is going to be displayed. So that it is going to be a web content mining. Next comes your document clustering. So it is going to be grouping. Document clustering as we are grouping the documents. So grouping the documents means let us assume page one is there, page two is there. Page one is displaying anything about the sports. Second page is also displaying anything about the sports. I can group it as a one group as these pages are related to sports. So that is document. The next concept that is going to be called as a document categorization. It is similar to that of your classification problem. So already we will be having some categories as music as one category, education as another category, so sports as another category. So we will be having the labels. So we will be taking a document. So we will be categories. If I want to label it as a music means what are the contents my web page must be having. So these will be compared. If they are relevant to what, it will be classified as this web page is related to music. Suppose its content is not related to music, it is related to the content of your sports team, it will be categorized as sports. So that is going to be a document categorization. So next comes your personalization. So personalization means what happens is, so it will be recommending the pages based upon the user's profile. Okay. So suppose I may be interested, as I'm doing research, if I'm interested in web mining, if I'm frequently visiting web mining means it will be displaying, it will be recommending pages that is related to web mining. Okay. Sometimes if I have registered in any of the things and if I'm referring any journal papers related to web mining, automatically they will be giving recommendation to me. So these papers I have come. If you want to read it, you can read it like that. So that is one kind of personalization. So all these comes, it depends upon the content of the page. So that it is going to be web content mining. So next comes the next feature that is going to be called as a structure mining. From the name, structure mining means so we are dealing with how we have organized the pages, how the one page is going to be linked with other pages. Usually, if I want to move from one page to another page, so we used to click the hyperlink. So a blue color text will be there. We will be clicking it. Using that, we will be navigating, right? So we have to identify what is the link between the pages we are having. So the data sources for it. So here we have the implicit linking. Okay. So also we have the explicit hyperlink between the documents. So the various applications of your web structure mining application are document retrieval and ranking. So what happens is, suppose I'm giving item set mining as a search keyword, multiple pages are there. But what happens is, in the first page, only few pages comes. So in 100th page, you will be having several links. So why these pages are coming in the first page? So what is the criteria for my web page to come under the first page of your Google, right? So if I'm searching for it, multiple pages will be there. First page lo koncha links, and first page will be having few links. In second page will be having few links. Third page will be having few links, right? So if I want to have my page to be listed in the first page, my page must be having the highest rank. If my page is having the highest rank, automatically it will be coming in the front. So what are the requirements for my page to come in front is multiple pages must have referred my web page. If I have created a web page about item set mining, and my content is good, automatically what happens is other people who are creating their website related to mining, they'll be giving a link to my web page. So automatically the rank of my page increases and it will be coming in front. So this is the thing that happens in your Google. Next one is, next important application is discovery of hubs and authorities. So here comes the two keywords. We must be very clear what is called as hub and what is going to be called as an authority. So the authorities means one best example is, suppose so one person is interested in knowing who is having. I want to know about the disease leukemia. So what happens here is, so the authoritative source of information might be the website of National Cancer Institute. Okay. So I'll direct, so because what I will rely on that particular website. Okay. So because whatever information they have given, it may be true. So then such pages can be called as the authoritative pages. Okay. So which pages, so if I think that their information is going to be perfect, so they are going to be called as authorities. That pages is going to be called as authorities. Next, we have hubs. Hubs means what happens is, suppose as an individual, I am interested in knowing about the disease leukemia. I am creating a web page about what are the symptoms of it. So what are the treatments that is available? What are the hospitals best for it? Okay. So what I will do is refer to this authoritative pages. Okay. So I will collect the information from these authority pages and I will put it in my page and I will give link to those pages. Right?
Ma'am.
Yes. Ma'am? Yes. Is anyone having any doubts?
Please go ahead, madam. Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So in case of your hub means, so the meaning is any pages which is referring to this authorities is going to be called as a hub. As I have told you, as an individual, I have created a page. I have collected information from various authorities and I am putting a hyperlink in my web pages. They are going to be called as a hubs. The hubs refer to the authorities. They have link to the authorities. Okay. So authorities are referred by the hubs. So this is going to be hubs and authorities. For these and all, we need this hyperlink. So that is your structure mining. So another important thing is your discovery of your web communities. So what happens here is, suppose I have created a web page. In my web page, what I am writing is most of the contents I have related to your sports, and I am having most of the links related to sports. Only few links are related to music. In such case, what I have to do is this web page belongs to the community of music. Okay, so like that I can categorize it. If most of the link is related to music, it will be categorized or it will be grouped into your music community. That's the concept of your structure discovery of web communities. So as you already know that social network analysis is a very important topic in case of your web structure. So which persons are linked to which persons, the profile of other persons are linked to friend of a friend, like that. If I want to analyze this, we can go in for your web structure mining. So the two categories we have seen it. The final topic we have come up. So that is your web usage mining. This is a main topic which is related to your item set mining. I have done it, right? So web usage mining means based upon how the users are using my website. Okay. So based on that, I'm going to extract the information means it is going to be the web usage mining. So I'm going to extract what are the interesting patterns. Okay. So that occur as a result of the user interaction with the website. So using this navigation behavior, what are the things we can infer? So how the website, if our college website is a MEPCO website, so how the users are using our website? So which pages they are frequently using it? Okay. So which pages are not used by the users? How can I improve such pages? Okay. So how the users will, so they have visited CEC department. So they have seen about the faculty information. So what will be the next thing they will be visiting it? So predict how the users will behave in the future. So the next one is target. So next one is depending upon the interest of the users, we can also recommend some pages. So the recommendation can also be done with the help of your web usage mining. So you might have seen it if you are buying one product. If I'm buying a laptop, automatically I will be getting the recommendations. So regarding the accessories, you can buy this. This is the best product. You can buy this. So they will be giving so much of recommendation for us. So that is cross selling. We will see it. So next thing we have it, the bundling offer they will be giving it. If I try to search for a laptop, automatically at the bottom they will give it. If you buy this laptop along with this particular printer, the cost will be reduced so much, right? So like that. So the based upon the usage, the what they will be doing is they will be giving the recommendations. So which in turn it will increase your sales, profit, everything. Right? So that is going to be the web usage mining. So from where we are going to collect the data for your web usage mining, because it is going to be the usage data, how the user is using your website, how the user is using your pages. So the main source is going to be the logs, because the log records whatever event occurs, whatever action is taken by the users. So here the server access logs we have, referral logs we have, agent logs, clients. We will be seeing all these things. What are the various logs we are having it? How we are going to extract the data? Then the page attributes of the time, everything, content, right? So data about the visitors, the users who are using the website. Okay. So all these things are going to be the source of your web usage mining. The major thing is so how they are using it. So I'm clicking link 1, link 2, link 3, right? They will be maintaining all these information. From this also, they will be able to identify the information. They will be able to find the patterns. Okay. So the next one is web usage mining applications. So here we are having various applications such as what will happen in the future. What is the next event? So which we say it as a sequence mining. So the user has visited page 1, page 2. So page 3 is going to be visited by the user next. Okay, so that is going to be called as a sequence mining. Or otherwise, if you say it as an example, suppose a person is buying butter, he is buying milk. So the next he will buy is going to be bread. So like that, I can identify that sequence. Okay, one after the other. So that is a sequence mining. Another one is going to be the associated events. This also we can write it as a rule. If they buy bread, automatically they will buy jam. It is a rule, right? So that is going to be the associated events. We can say it. So the next one is discovery of visitor groups with similar properties and interests. So I'm going to group all the users. Those are all interested in music. I will group it. The user community detection can also be done. So next one is here what session history. So next one we have is here they have different classes on the class. If they are similar, they will be that is a class which is based on key. So these are going to be the various web usage applications we are going to have. So for all these things, the base is going to be what is going to be the pattern. Say it as a pattern, we say it as a sequence, we say it as a session, or we say it as a item. So all these terms. So we are going to so for all I have told that's going to be the base. So we are going to see the things. So next web applications, web usage mining application, a specific application that is the electronic commerce. So as I have told you, e-commerce only effectively using this actually. Okay, it is going to be evaluate the promotional campaigns. Okay, so what are the things that can take it? Cross marketing, cross selling. Cross selling means if they are buying laptop, I will make them to buy my printer also or a mouse or your headset like that. That is a cross selling. We can have it. Then if they are interested in a few things, I'll be giving them a coupon, right? If you use it, you can buy it like that. So based upon their interest, right? So like that. All these things with the help of your item set mining, we can do it. That is your web usage mining. So the next one is, so as we have already seen it, effective and efficient web presence. That is in my website, what are the pages that is frequently visited by the users? Why the remaining pages are not visited? What are the improvements I have to make it? Or whether I have to remove those links. So all these things, all these type of decisions can be done with the help of this web usage. The next some very important application, as we have discussed, it is going to be recommender system. So it identifies the information that is important to a specific user. It changes from one user to another user. Suppose if you are using your YouTube, in that we are seeing the comedy movies frequently. Okay, so automatically they will be recommending the comedy movies to you, right? So that's the thing, right? So we are having a different kind of ways of recommending. One is rule-based filtering, collaborative filtering, content-based. Another one is hybrid filtering. So first one, we go in for your rule-based filtering. So rule-based filtering, as I have told you, so if they are buying bread, they will be, so automatically I will recommend them to you buy jam or butter. Okay, so that is your rule-based. Collaborative filtering means what happens is the collaborative filtering, it all depends on. So if I want to buy it, it will see it will see my profile as well as the other users' profile. If it matches based upon the interest of other users, okay, they will be recommending a product to me. Similar type of users. Okay. So whose interest is similar to me, based on that, they will be giving a recommendation to me. So here itself, we have two things actually based upon the items that I buy frequently. If I'm buying mobile regularly, okay, if I'm changing my mobile regularly, they will be giving a recommendation regarding the mobiles. This is called as a based upon the item set. Okay, collaborative filtering based upon the item set. So another one is user-based collaborative filtering. User-based collaborative filtering means the meaning is, so as I had told, my friend is buying a mobile, so they will think that his friend is buying a mobile, so this person will also be interested in mobile, so they will be recommending mobile to me. Can you understand it? So that it is going to be collaborative filtering. Next one is going to be the content based filtering. They'll be seeing the pages I am visiting based upon the content of the page. Okay, so they will be recommending other pages. So this is content based filtering. Hybrid, as its name implies, it is going to be the combination and a mixture of your collaborative content based everything. It is going to be the hybrid method. So now we go into our topic, that is your frequent item set mining. So our task is, what we have to do is we have to identify. Suppose a person is buying a mobile or a laptop or any other things. I have to identify which are the items that he is frequently buying. Okay, so that it is going to be called as a frequent item set mining. So they will be seeing the log, that is going to the past history of it. So what happens is we'll be having a large amount of data pre-processing. So whatever data we needed, I will take it and I will transform it into form suitable for processing. From that part, I will be identifying the patterns. So from this pattern, what is the knowledge I'm going to infer? So we are having a data. From the data, we are getting information. From the information, we get the insight. Okay. So that is the order we are having it. So that is a frequent item set mining. So what are the things that can be done with your frequent item set mining is, what are the items that are bought together? Bread and jam are bought together. So after buying PZ, what will be the next item he will be buying? That is a recommendation, prediction. Okay, that can be done. So it can be used in your medical field also, in your science also we can use it. It can be used for analyzing the DNA. What kinds of DNA are sensitive to which drug? Okay, so like that also we can identify it. So for automatic classification of the web documents, clustering of your web documents, okay, clustering of the users, everything it can be done using a item set mining, based upon your item set mining. So first one, so we can go in for your basic terminologies using your frequent item set mining. So we often use a term called as a transaction database. Okay. So if I am taking into consideration the transactions, okay. So suppose a person is going to a shop, he is buying some items. Okay. So he is buying some rice, he is buying some soap or any other things. Okay. So what are the items he has bought from one time to between some duration, for a specific duration, it becomes a transaction. Understand? So that's going to be called as a transaction database. So if you see this example, so 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. So these are the items they are bought together. Okay. So 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the items they are bought next time. Okay. So these are the items that are bought at the next time. Okay. So they occur together. They are the items bought at one at a time. So they become one transaction. So this is becomes the next transaction. 1 to 7, 8, 9, it becomes the next transaction. 179, it becomes the next transaction. 279, 2, everything. Okay. So totally here we are having 6 transactions, right? So now, as I have told you, it is a collection of transactions made by the users. So each record, so one row we can say 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 can be called as a record. Okay. So here, so if you take, we have to identify what are the, always, whenever we are performing some item set classification or item set mining, we have to identify what are the unique items we are having. Let us assume that E is equal to, what are the unique items is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So this is going to be the set of items, unique items that is present in my DB. Now, T is going to be, this is T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6. T1 is going to be a subset of E automatically. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 is going to be a subset of E. 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to be a subset of E, right? It comes within your E. So this is going to be the basic definition of it. So now we can see what are the things that comes under the frequent item set mining. Point of sale data, as we are told, based upon the purchase details of the items. So I can say that this is item 1, item 2, item 3, item 5, item 6, and item 7. From weblog perspective, what are the pages visited by the user? I can say it is page 1, page 2, page 5, page 6, page 7. Okay. Or otherwise, the options that is given by the user, as I have told, they are all usage data, right? So options of PC, cars, etc. So options chosen by one customer. One, it represents PC. Two, it represents the cars. Five, it represents bike. Like that, we can have it. So what are the options that is selected by the user? All these things, it can be converted into a transaction database. Okay. So depending upon your application, we can make use of your application. Okay, ma. So the next one, basic terminologies that is used in your frequent item set mining, we have to go in for it. So first one is your item set. From the name, it is a set of items. So we can say it is one or more items. We can say 1, 2, 5, 6 as a group together. It is going to be called as an item set. So K item set means if my item set I'm having 3 items, it is going to be 3 item sets. 2 item set means it is going to have 2 items. That's the thing about your K item set. Whenever we are saying about the terms, 1 item set, 2 item set, must be very clear. 1 item set means it consists of only 1 item. 2 item set means it contains 2 items. So we come across frequently these two things. What is absolute support? Okay, relative support we say. Absolute support is one thing, another one is relative support. Absolute support, it deals with the frequency. Suppose if you see here, the absolute support of 2 is, so simply we have to take individual transactions and we have to count it. 1, 2, 3, it is not in 4, so 4, 5. So total number of transactions that contains your item, the frequency of occurrence of the item set. So 2 has occurred in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it is 5. If you take the occurrence frequency of 7, it is going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is going to be the absolute support. Simply making counting in total transaction, I have to count it, how many number of times it has occurred. Next one is relative support. So here it is a probability, the fraction of transaction that contains the item set X. Suppose if I want to find the relative support of 1, 2, I have to identify all transactions which is having both 1 and 2. Right? So in this case, so we are having in transaction 1, we are having 1, 2. So 1, 2 here. So excuse me. So 1 minute. Sorry. So now we have your relative support. Relative support is fraction of transactions that contain X. So if we want to find the relative support of 1 and 2, we have to find where they have occurred together. In T1 they have occurred, T2 they have occurred, so 2 times they have occurred. So total number of transactions is 6. So we have to give it as 2 by 6 and we will be getting as 0.33. So this is going to be your relative support.
मैम मैम
screen visible, sir?
No, madam.
Screen is not visible, sir.
Yeah. No. Not visible. Make it share.
Visible now, sir.
Yes, visible, and make it full screen.
I made it full screen, sir. It's not visible.
Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
The full screen visible, sir.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. No problem.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
working.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. So the next one is the confidence. Confidence is the proportion of transaction that contain X that also contain Y is going to be called as the confidence. We are saying 1 tends to 2. So we have to say see that contains 1. So here the number of transactions that contains 1 is 1, 2, and 3. The total number of transactions that contain X is 1 is going to be 3. In that we have to see whether 2 also occurs. So here 2 is there, here also 2 is there. So only 2 transactions among 3 are having 1 and 2, right? So 2 by 3, it is going to be 0.67. So that is going to be called as a confidence. So the next one is, so based upon this support only, we have to identify whether my item set is going to be a frequent item set or not. So here, an item set is going to be frequent if its support is going to be greater than the minimum support threshold. We have to set a threshold depending upon our application. We have to choose a threshold, right? So let us assume what if my minimum support is going to be 0.5. I have set the threshold as 0.5, and I want to check whether 2 is a frequent item or not. So in such case, what I have to do is it is going to be, so we have to count it in which transactions we are having it and total number of transactions. So it is going to be relative support. So what we have to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 by, we have to give 6. 5 by 6 is going to be 0.8. So 0.8 is greater than the minimum support threshold. So I will say that 2 is a frequent item set. So that's the thing about a frequent item set. We can have it. We come across another term called as a maximal frequent item set also. So maximal frequent item set is the item set, it must be frequent. Frequent means it must be its support must be greater than the threshold. At the same time, it must not be having any superset. If it is having a superset, it will not be added to the frequent item set. So in this example, if you are taking it, so I am having an item 1, its support is going to be 1. 2, 3, its support is going to be 1. 2, 4, 3, its support is going to be 0.5. So my minimum support is going to be 0.5 letters estimate. So these are the frequent page set that item set that is identified. In this case, so 2, 3 is a subset of your 2, 4, 3. So 2, 3 is having a superset 2, 4, 3. So what happens here is 2, 3 will be removed from the frequent page set. So what are the maximal frequent items? Item set will be 1 will be the maximum frequent item set. 2, 4, 3 will be the item set. 2, 3 is eliminated because it is having a superset. So the next one is a closed frequent item set. It is similar to your maximal frequent item set. So one thing is, so it will be checking whether the support is also same. If the support is same, then only the subset will be eliminated. Now for this, we can take an example. I'm having 1, its support is 0.75. We can take 1, 2, its support is also 0.75. In this scenario, so 1 is having a superset 1, 2, that is also with the same support. This is also 0.75, this is also 0.75. Then I can remove 1. So this is going to be the close frequent item. Now if you take 2, 3 and 2, 4, 3 as in the previous example, 2, 4, 3 is a superset. But what happens here is, so their support is not same. So what I will do is, I will not eliminate 2, 3. It will be there in the frequent page set. So my frequent page sets are 1, 2. Okay, 1 will be eliminated. 1, 2 will be there. 2, 3 will be there. 2, 4, 3 will be there. So that's all about your close frequent page set. Now we can move on into how we are going to collect the data for your web usage mining. how we are going to process it, how we are going to get the database. From the stats, we can see it. Once the database is created, from that we can mine the item sets. So first, we are going to for web usage mining. The major source of information is going to be the server, the logs. So here there are three types of logs we are having. One is server side logs, client side logs, another one is the proxy side logs. Server side logs means whenever a user is accessing a website, if from their side, they will be collecting the information about the user. So that is your server side log. Client side log is from the user perspective. Whenever I am accessing a website, my information is going to be stored in the data set. Okay, and the log, that is a client side log, but it needs the support of the client to support it. If he is not supporting, I cannot collect his information. Another one is going to be proxy side log files. In institutions and all, we will be having a proxy server. Any request we give from any system, it goes to the proxy server. From the proxy server, it will be going to your web server. So if I want to identify, so who are the users they are accessing the websites? What are the websites that is accessed by the users within an organization or any other things? We can go in for your proxy side log files. So various fields. If you take a weblog means you will be having various fields in it. Actually, it will be in a text file format. So various fields such as what is the server IP address, what is the method they have used it. So this is a URI stem. This is going to be the field name. What is the page they have requested? Okay. So the client query, whatever request they have given it. So many fields we have it. So the important fields we can see it. The server IP address, so this is going to be the IP address of the client we have it, who has made the request, to whom they have made the request, SIP. So which page they have referred is going to be the URI stem. So the next one is the user agent and all, which browser they are using, which OS they are using. So another important field is a referrer field. From which website? Suppose from Google, I am going in for your MEPCO website. Google is going to be called as a referrer. MEPCO is going to be called as a requested URL. From Google, I'm going to make MEPCO means Google is going to be called as a referrer and MEPCO is going to be called as a requested URL. So all these fields are there. So what we have to do is our first step is what? So all these information is available. Whatever field that is needed for our application, we have to take those fields alone. First, I have to convert the text file format into a well-structured, semi-structured format into a well-structured format. From the well-structured format, I have to select only the data that is needed to me. That step they will be doing in your data pre-processing. So if I don't want, if I don't want any multimedia contents, I will remove it. If I don't want any request for your CSS script files, I will remove it. So what are the things that is not needed, I will remove from the data set. So that is going to be the data pre-processing. After that, I will store it in a structured format, either in a log table or in any format we use it. Next comes the next part, that is a user identification. So now from the log file, I have extracted all the information. I have stored it into a table. My next step is, so I want to identify who are the users. Okay. So for that, what I will do is, already in the field, I told you important fields. Client IP address is one thing, server IP address is one thing. From the client IP address, I can find who has accessed the website. So based on that field, I can identify the users of the website. So that's the thing. This is one way. We are having other ways for identifying it. It is one way of doing it. Okay. So the next one is a session identification. Session identification means, so user one, what are the pages he has visited? User one, what are the items he has purchased? So all these things. So we say it as a session. So here we are having two major things. One is going to be time oriented. Another one is going to be the navigation oriented. Time oriented means what we do is, here we have two important time oriented methods. One is going to be called as a session duration based method. Another one is going to be called as a page stay time based method. In session duration method, what we'll do is, so we will be having some time as 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Suppose if it is going to be 30 minutes, what are the pages visited by the user within a 30-minute duration, 9 to 9:30, how many pages he has visited. So that it becomes a session. He has visited page 1, page 2, page 3 means P1, P2, P3, it becomes a session. What we say it as a item set. Okay. So the next one. So for the next 30 minutes, what he has visited, it becomes the second session. Okay. So next one is a page stay time method. Page stay time method means, so the maximum duration a user can stay in a page is going to be 10 minutes. If he is going to stay in a single page more than 10 minutes means, it will be taken as a next session. In first page, he start 9 o'clock. He is saying first page. Okay, so by 9:15, he is seeing the second page. Means P1 will form the separate session. P2 will form a separate session. That is going to be the page stay time days method. Next one is going to be the navigation oriented heuristics from the name. So it is purely based upon the link between the pages. I am visiting page, no, we will not take into consideration the time and all, whether it is going to be 30 minutes duration or 10 minutes duration, we will not consider it. So the user has visited page 1 and page 3. Then they will see whether there is any link between P1 and P2. If there is a link, what I will do is I will put P1 and P3 in the same session. If there is no link between P1 and P3, hyperlink, right? Whether any reference is there between a P1 and P3. If there is no reference, there no link between P1 and P3, P1 will be put in session 1, P3 I will place it in session 2. Okay? So this is your navigation oriented heuristic. So one example I will give you for clearly understanding the concept. Now for an example, we can take some fields. So now it is going to be, let us estimate this one customer 1. At time 9:10, he has visited page 3. Time 9:13, a second user has visited page 1. Like this, we will be having a set of things. Okay, here we are having totally 3 users. What I will do is, first I will arrange the records based upon the user ID. So the pages that belongs to user 1 at the top, 2, 3, like that, I have sorted it. After that, I will create session for each and every user. So for the first user, I will see the time. This is 9:10, 9:15. If it is going to be time oriented, it is within 30 minutes duration, right? Only 5 minutes gap is there. So I will put 3 and 9 in a single session. Now I will take all the pages of user 2 and I will form sessions from the user 2. Now 9, 13 and 18, they have only, it is less than 30 minutes. So 1, 3 will be put under the same session. Now the next page is 9:50. So if I'm taking 30 minutes, so I have to take these two things as a difference. Okay, 13 and 15, they have more than 30 minutes duration. So what I will do is 1, 3 will be put in a separate session and 4 will be placed in another session. So like this, so we have to see and we have to create it. So it depends upon our criteria. If I'm not checking for your time and all, if I'm seeing only if there is a link. If there is a link between 3 and 9, it will be put in a single session. If 1 is having link to 3, they will be putting in a single session. If there is a link between 3 and 4, they will also be put under the same session. So similarly here also. So now you can see an approach here. Now in this example, I have checked whether there is any link between the users or not, pages or not. 3 and 9 are having link, so I have put it in a single session. 1, 3, 4, they are having link, so I have put it in a separate session. For user 3, 3, 4, 9 are having link, so I have put it in a separate session. So here, so I have created 3 sessions. So if you say in terms of your transactions, I'll say that this is 3 transactions. Transaction 1, transaction 2, this is going to be transaction 3. So totally we are having 3 transactions. Okay? So this is a way we arrive at the sequence. It may be a sequence or it may be an item set or anything. So this data, I will say this as a sequence database. Instead of saying it as a transaction database, I will say it as a sequence database or a session database because I have taken into consideration the order in which the pages are visited. So now we can go in for, I have told you the way of creating a database. Now we slowly move into, once the database is created, how we are going to mine the frequent item sets. So first one, so here we have a very important property called as the downward closure property. So the downward closure property is any subset of a frequent item set must be frequent. Suppose let us assume that beer, diaper and nuts is going to be frequent. Then we can see the subset. Subset means beer and diaper or beer and nuts or diaper and nuts. They are going to be called as a subset. So wherever beer, diaper, nuts occur, there we have a beer and diaper, right? So that it is going to be called as a downward closure property. Wherever beer, diaper, nuts occur, automatically beer and diaper will be there. So beer and diaper is going to be subset. Right? So any subset of a frequent item set must be frequent. So that's the logic of your downward closure property. So we are going to see the three major approaches. So for item set mining, so one is a priori based approach. We say it as a candidate generation and test approach. Another one is going to be called as a projection based approach. Another one is a vertical data format approach. In these approaches, several papers has evolved. So we will see only the basic of it. So in these category, new researches are being going on. So first one, we will take the a priori approach, then FP growth, then the vertical data format approach. So first, the a priori approach, it is going to be candidate generation and test approach. So the a priori approach is, if any item set is going to be infrequent, if A is going to be infrequent, its superset should not be generated. Okay, I cannot generate AB because A is not a frequent item set. If A is infrequent, I cannot generate AB. So that is the basic logic behind a priori pruning. So here, what initially we do is, we will scan the entire database. From that, we have to identify the frequent one item set. From the frequent one item set, we have to generate k plus one candidate. So with an example, if you are seeing it, you can understand it easily. From one item set, we have to generate two item set. As I have already told, one item set means the item set will be having only one item. Two item set means the item set will be having only two items. A is one item set. AB is two item set. ABC is three item set. So two item set can be generated from one item set. Three item set can be generated from two item set. Four item set can be generated from three item set. So the candidates are generated. Then we have to prune the candidates, right? From that, we have to identify the frequent item set. So we can, with the help of an example, we can see it. So first one is candidate generation. Now let us assume that L3 means length 3 item set. So you see here, all the items, 3 items will be there. So that is here L3. From the L, these are frequent item set. So from the frequent item set only, we have to generate the next candidate. Candidate means what? Who may, they may be frequent or it may be infrequent. Okay. First, we have to generate all the 4 length sequences from it. So first we have to, so you have to combine within this itself. So self-joining. So that is the thing. So what happens is ABC will be joined with ABD. So what happens is ABCD. AB are common here, right? So ABCD. So it will be created. So now we have to check whether I can have ABCD here or not. So I have to find what are all the subsets of ABCD. The subsets of ABCD are ABC. Okay, BCD is going to be the thing. We have to find once a candidate is generated. Once the candidate is generated, we have to identify whether it is frequent or not. For that, we have to find the subset of it. That is a pruning step. Okay, so pruning step, I will take the first one, ABCD. So the subsets are ABC. Okay, I will check whether ABC is here. It is there, then okay. Then I will take another subset, BCD. BCD is also here, so it is okay. Then I will take ABD. ABD. I'll check whether ABD is here. Yes, ABD is here. So I will accept it and I will add it to the candidates. Next one, ACDE. It is going to be one of the 4 length singles that is generated from 3. Okay. So I have to find all the subset of it. So now I will say ACD. It is present. ACE. It is also present. I have to find whether CDE is there. If CD is there, okay, ADE is there. ADE. So we have to check. AD is also subset of it. We have to check whether AD is here. AD is not in L3. So I should not include it in the candidates. Okay. So the candidate is going to be ABCD. From this, I have to generate the, from 3 item set, we have to generate 4 item sets. So in this example, we can see it. So first one, as we have seen, it is a transaction database. First, what I have to do is, I have to take all the one item set, unique items, we have to find it. The unique items are A, B, C, D, and E. So I will list all the things, all the unique items of it. Then for finding the support, I have to scan the entire database. A, how many number of times it has occurred? It is an absolute support. So we have to take all the transactions. It has occurred here, it has occurred here. So I will put it as 2. Then B, it has occurred here, 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 here. So it is 3. Likewise, we are computing the support. Here, the support of D is 1. So our minimum support is 2. So what I have to do is I have to remove it. So here, what are the, this is L1, it represents a frequent one length item set. L1 means length 1, frequent item set. Frequent means it must be above the threshold. So here A, B, C, E is going to be generated. Then for generating the candidates, candidate means I can't say it is an item set, frequent, right? I'm going to generate only the candidates. So L1 will be combined with L1 itself. So AB, AC, AE, BC, BE, CE. So all these combinations we have to find it. All the combinations we have to find it. So that is going to be candidate 2. So while we are generating the candidate, we have to, well, while generating AB, I have to check whether the subset is in L1. Subset of AB is what? One is A, another one is B. A is here, B is here. So it is okay. AC, A is here, C is here. So it is also okay. Like that, whenever a candidate is generated, we have to check whether its subset is in L1. C, when we generate a C2, we have to check whether subset is L1. Okay. Now candidates are generated. Once the candidate are generated, we have to find what is the support of each and every candidate. For finding the support of each and every candidate, once again, I have to scan the database. So I have to scan here, AB occurs here. Okay, only one place it has there. So 1. AC, it is 1 and 2. So I have put it as 2. Like that, we have to find it out. Now, what are the items which is having less than 2 will be eliminated, pruning. So this is candidate generation. This is pruning step. Okay, so this will be removed and this will be removed. So we will be getting it. So now we are having L2. From L2, we have to generate the candidates. How to generate it? Combine with itself. AC and BC we have to combine. So what we will get? AC, B, we will be getting it. That is one subset. That is a candidate. ACB means we have to check all the subsets. ACB, what are the subsets we are having? AC is a subset. It is there. CB is a subset. Okay, so we are having it. So CB, we are not having it. So what happens here is, so we have to combine all the 3. Okay. So AC, BC, we are having it. BE, we are having it. BCE, if we are taking it. BE, we are having it. BC, we are having it. So it will be taken into consideration. AC and C, if we are taking it. ACE, we will be getting it. In ACE, AC is there, C is there, AE is not there. Okay. AE is not there. In the set, we are not having AE, so it will not add it to the candidate set. Okay. If the subset is not in L2, it will not be selected as a candidate. So BCE, we have it. So for that, we have to support the count. For that, we have to go in for the third scan. So it is going to be 1 and 2. So it's supposed it's 2. Okay. So only one item set here. So we have to stop the process. Okay. So finally, we have found length 1 item set, frequent item set, length 2 frequent item set. It is going to be a length 3 frequent item set. L1, L2, L3, they represent the frequent item set. So this is going to be a frequent item set mining in case of your the first a priori approach. So using this frequent items, so we can generate association rules. Okay. So or we can which can be used for your recommendation. So the second approach, the challenges we are facing is, you see here. So once the candidate is generated, for finding the support, I have to scan the database from top to bottom. Okay, so see how many times I have scanned the database, 1 scan, second and third scan. Okay, it will go on. So it takes time for me to perform it. So huge number of candidates are generated. If you see here, we are generating a large number of candidates. From that, only 4 are being selected. Right? So that is the thing. So the support counting is going to be a tedious task. So in order to overcome it, we go in for the next approach that is going to be called as the FP growth approach. So we can say it is an improvement of your a priori method. So we are going to avoid the candidate generation process here. So that is going to be the advantage of your FP growth. So here what we are going to do is we'll be using a tree structure for mining the frequent items. So we can take an example for it. So how we are going to construct a FP tree from a transaction database. So we are having several items here. So first, as such, we have to find what are the unique items we are having it. So the unique items are identified, we are placing it, and we want to find what is the support of it. So the support of it is found by scanning the database. So we have generated it. Now 6, 7, 8 are having only one as a support. It is present in only one transaction. So what we have to do is we have to remove all 6, 7, and 8. So only 5 items will be having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our next step is, so what we have to do is we have to arrange the items based upon the support in decreasing order. So what happens here is based on the decreasing support in decreasing order. So what happens is 4, 4, 3, 2, 2 support. So based on that, the items are sorted. So the sorted order items are 3, 4, 2, 1, 5. So this we say it as a F list. 3, 4, 2, 1, 5. So the next step is based on this F list, we have to order the items. This is the original order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So based upon the F list, we have to sort it. So our F list is 3, 4, 3, then only 4, then only 2, then only 1, and then only 5. So based on that, we have to sort it. We are sorted it. 2, 3, 4, 8, it will be changed as 3, 4, 2. Right? 8 will not be there. Minor mistake is there. So we have to see for this database. Okay. So 8 is removed. 6, 7, 8 are removed. Okay. So I have not given 8. 8 is removed. Okay. So next one is 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 6 is removed. Okay. I have not highlighted it. I have removed 8, 6, and 7 because their support is only 1. Okay. Remaining items we have to sort it. 8 will be left out. So it will be 3, 4, 2. So here all the things will be there 3, 4, 2, 1. Here 6 will be left out. It is a infrequent item. So 3, 4, 5, it will be removed. 5 will be having it. Okay. So this is the way we have to do it. Then once we have ordered it, from this we have to construct a tree, which we say it as a SP tree. So this is the way. So see here, we are having 3, 4, 2, 1, 5. Each and every transaction we have to go. The first transaction is 3, 4, 1, 2, 5. I have taken 3, 4, 1, 2, 5. So for that, you take a structure 3, 4, 2, 1, 5. One time, right? So I'll put this is your support. This one, it represents your support 1, 1, 1, 1 because only one transaction is over. Now the second transaction I'm taking, the order also important 3, 4, 2. 3, then only 4, then only 2. So I have increased the support to 2. Now 3, 4, 2, 1, the same order. So 3, earlier it was 2, now it has made us 3. 3, 3, 3, we have done it. Then 3, 4. So once again, 3, 4 alone is going to be incremented. Now 5. So the path also we have to see it. So here 5, it is not having any prefix. It is not having any prefix. So it must be directly attached to the parent. So this is the order in which we will construct the SP tree. This is going to be called as a SP. So now I'll take another example. So this is a way of construction of the SP tree. So once the same tree, I have given it here, the same tree. So what we must do is we must link the same items together. So 5 will be linked to 5. That's it, right. So the total support will be what? Here 1, here 1. So total support will be 2. So for 1, the support is 2. So like that, we will be forming it. So this is a way we have to construct a SP tree from a transaction database. So I have taken another example also for the same SP tree so that you can understand it. So unique items are identified, support is calculated. Then we have to arrange the elements according to their support. Okay, so 5, 4, 4, 4. Here it is having my support is 3. So I have removed I5 because its support is less than 3. So my next step is what? For each transaction, we have to arrange the items. So it will be arranged according to the F list 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, 4. Here 5 is left because it's infrequent. So I4, I2, 1, 1, 4. So then we have to construct the SP tree. So if you see the process, you can understand it. I2, I1, I3, I2, I1, I3. Then I2, I3, I14, I2, I3, I14. The same way as we have seen in the previous example. Okay. So if you follow the path of it, you will be getting it. Here 4, right? So 1, 1, 1, 1. We are getting the path 4. So 3 means it is going to be a 4. Support is 4. 3 here, here 1. So that is the way we have to create a SP tree. Now from the SP tree, so what we have to create is we say it as a conditional pattern base. So conditional pattern base means we have to follow the reverse order of your F list. what is the F list order? It is going to be I2, I1, I3, I4. So we have to follow from the last node. What is the last node? It is going to be I4. Okay, then I have to go for I3, then I1. We will not visit I2 because it is going to be attached to the root, right? So I4, I3, and I1. For these three things, I will be constructing the pattern base. So for I4, I3, and I1. So how to reach I4? What are the ways for reaching I4? One way is what? I2, I1, I3. This is one way. So I have to give it. Then what is the support of it? 1. So I have to put it as 1 here. Right? So the next one is, so now what is the next way of reaching I4 is through I2, I1, and I4. This is the next way of reaching it. So I will put it as, okay, so I will put it as I2, I1, and I4. So I will put I2 and I1. What is the support of it? 1. So we are placing it as 1. So then another way is I2, I3, and I4. So what are the ways I can reach I4? That has to be given here. The support must be the support of that particular item, right? So I3, how to reach I3? I2, I1, and I3, right? So I2, I1 is the path. So I2, I1 I have added. What is the support of a 3? So I have to put it. So you should not see the support here. You have to see the support of the item. Next, what are the other ways for reaching I3? So from I2 directly I can reach I3. So I'll put I2. What is the support of I3? I will put it as 1. So how to reach I1 is, so we have to see how to reach I1. So it is going to be only using a I2, right? So we have to put I2. What is the support of it? 4. So I will put it. So this is a conditional pattern base. So from the conditional pattern base, we have to create a conditional frequent pattern tree. So conditional frequent pattern tree will be constructed for each and every item. Right? So I'll take the next example so that I can understand it. So for I1, I3, I1, we have taken the conditional pattern base. So from this, we have to consider conditional FP tree. So now here, so we have three things, three paths for reaching your I4. Now what I have to do is, so for I2, how many number of times I2 has occurred? 1, 2, 3. So I'll put I2 and 3. I1 has occurred, I1, okay, 2 times. So support of I1 is 2, but my minimum support is 3. So I will not add it here. Then I3 is here, I3 and I3 2 times. Here once again it is less than 3. So I will not add it in the conditional FP3. Right? So that's the thing. Now if you 3 I3, so here I2 has occurred 3 times, right? Here 3 is there. I2 has occurred 3 times here. It has occurred 1 time. So 3 plus 1, it is 4. I1 has occurred 3 times. So I'll put I1 colon 3. You count the number of, find the sum of the support of the specific item. If it is greater than minimum support, add it to the conditional pattern tree, or otherwise leave it. So here I2 4, it is greater than 3, so I will add it. So like this, the conditional FP tree will be constructed for each and every item. So that is our next step. So we are finding what are the unique frequent items. From that, we are considering conditional pattern base. Pattern base is nothing the path that leads to the particular item. From the conditional pattern base, so we have to construct the conditional pattern tree, FP tree, right? So that also we have seen it. So this is going to be the thing. From each conditional frequent pattern tree, we have to identify the frequent pattern. Okay, so first step is over. This is going to be the items. This is going to be the conditional pattern base, conditional frequent pattern tree. Now we have to identify the frequent pattern item. So what I have to do is, here I'm having I2, right? So this I2 must be combined with I4 and I2. So I have to put I2 comma I4 colon. What is the support here? It is 3. So I'll put 3 here. Now here, if I think I3, what are the combinations we have to form? So I'm having I2, I1, here I3. So how many combinations I'm going to get? I3, I2 is going to be one combination. I3, I1 is going to be another combination. I1, I2, I3 will be the next. Order of the item is not important. It may be I2, I3 or it may be I3, I2. Both are same. So only I'm saying are I3, I2, I3, I1, I1, I2, I3. Three combinations are there. First, you write all the three combinations. Then you compute the support. So first the support is 4, so I will put it. Then for I3, I1, the support is 3. Now I1, I2, I3, I have written it. What support to put? Whether to put 4 or 3. So we have to see which is the minimum of the two. 4 or 3, the minimum is going to be 3. So we have to put the support as 3. So the frequent item sets are identified. Then from I1, we have to identify the frequent. So I1, what is the conditional FP tree? It is I2, right? So I1, I2. So the support is 4. Okay. So this item is not having the support. For this, we have to take the support of this item. I1, I2, 4. So this is a way we have to identify the frequent items in case of your FP growth algorithm. These are the steps we are having. This is the first step, second step, third step. Finally, we are computing the frequent item sets. So we going for the FP growth algorithm. Okay. So here what happens is the costly for computing the support, we need not. So here we have not gone to the database itself. So we are computing the support only from the conditional FP tree, conditional pattern base only. We are computing the support. We are not going into the transaction database. So here we are avoiding the costly scan compared to that of your a priori approach. So that's the important thing here. So the next one is, so we are having the advantage needs to scan the database only twice. Okay. So the next one is candidate generation is not there. So all these things it is explained once again, right? So we need not store all the candidates in your memory. Okay. So it is a compact version here. So that's all about this. The next approach is going to be the vertical data format approach. So to overcome the difficulties we face in your a priori and F growth, okay, so anyway, we are having a scanning for counting the support. At least 2 times we have to scan in F growth, FP growth, okay. So multiple times in your a priori, 2 times in your FP growth, okay. So in Ecklet algorithm, okay, so we say there's equivalence class clustering and bottom up lattice in this approach, okay. So we are going to use a vertical data format. We can see what is a vertical data format. We can easily understand it. So this is a normal database we used to have, right? In transaction T1, the items I1, I2, I3 has occurred. In transaction T2, I2, I3, I4 has occurred. In T3, I4, I5 has occurred. So this is going to be the normal thing. If it is going to be this vertical data format, we have the items I1. It has occurred in T1, T4, T5, and T6. So what is the support of I1? We can easily find it out. Support is going to be 4. I need not scan the database. If it is going to be I2, so the number of transaction analysis, its support is going to be 5. I3, support is going to be 4. So we can easily identify it. Okay. So other thing is also there. Suppose I want to find what is the support of I1, I2 combination. It is also easy. What is the support of I1, I2 item? So we have to see what are the common transactions we are having. So what are the common transactions? T1, T4, T5, T6. So the support of I1, I2 is 4. So it will be very easy for computing the support compared to that of the FP growth approach or your a priori approach. So for this, I have taken another example. This is from your Geeks for Geeks. Okay. So we are having multiple transactions. These are the items that is present. If it is present, it is given as 1 or otherwise it is given as 0. Okay. So here also we have all the items that is listed. So automatically we have to create a database, right? So this is the way it will be converted. Bread, butter, milk, coke, jam. How many number of transactions it has occurred. So this is going to be the first one item set, right? So support is going to be 2. So all items satisfy it. So it will be there. Then we form k equal to 2. Okay. So we have to form the combinations. Bread, butter, bread, milk, bread, coke, bread, jam. Then buttermilk, butter, coke, butter, jam. Like that, we have to form the combinations. So like this we format, as I have given an example of how this is formed. This is the transactions of your butter bread and this is for your butter. So bread butter means what we have to do is common transaction as I have told you. So T1, T4, T8, T9. This is the way. By intersection, we can easily identify the values. Okay. So that's the thing. From this, it is having only support 1. This is having support 1. Okay. It is less than minimum support. So they will be removed. Okay. Red color indicates it is going to be removed. So the remaining transactions are, so remaining we are having these three things, right? 6 transactions. We have to combine bread, butter. It can be combined with milk. Bread, butter, milk. So what happens is we have to see what is the intersection of these two things. Okay. So what is the intersection? T8 and T9. It is going to be 2. Bread, butter, milk is going to be T8 and T9. Like that, we have to form it. Here, all the support is 2, so it will be maintained. Then K equal to 4. We have to combine these two things. So bread, butter, milk, jam. It will be the next one. So its support is going to be only T8. It is only 1. So it will be removed. So we have to take what are the one item set, frequent one item set, 2 item set, 3 item set, and 4 item set we are not having it. So this is a way of forming the item set in your vertical data format approach. So various variations we are having in all these approaches. Okay. So major application is, so if I want to arrange myself, if I'm going to have a shop, if I want to arrange the items, which items are bought together, I have to keep it near. Okay. If I'm going to create a catalog for the items available, so based on this frequent item sets, I can list the items. So it can be used for cross selling, product bundling. Okay. So fraud detections. So these are many applications of your frequent item set mining. There are various research areas here. So we are having sequential pattern mining. It is a very important one. So in frequent item set mining, we will not give importance to the order of the items. Bread and milk is similar to milk and bread, right? So whereas in sequential pattern mining, both are different. Bread milk is different from milk and bread. So the wherever application, the sequence is going to be important. In DNA analysis and all, the sequence will be very important. So in such cases, we can go in for a sequential pattern mining. So another one is a maximal and minimal frequent item set. So if a number of frequent item sets generated will be large, if you want to reduce it and you can use it, you can go in for a maximal and close frequent item set mining. Okay. Another one is a very important one, that is a mining high utility item set. So that is not only the frequency, they take into consideration the profit of the items. Okay. So when they are sold together, that can be taken together. So that is going to be the next approach we are having. So that's all about your frequent. So these are the references I have referred. So now what I will do is I will show you a demo. Okay. So that is a website for sequential pattern mining framework. You can refer to it. So this framework is especially for your sequential pattern mining, right? So we say it is a SPMF framework, sequential pattern mining framework. So we are having it, right? So if you go through this website, so we will be having all these things, association, the algorithms we will be having it. All the algorithms we have it. What are the sequential pattern mining algorithms we are having it? Okay, so for that, the corresponding papers, category wise, they have given it. Okay. Rule mining, what are the papers related to it? So apart from the algorithms, documentation, data sets will be there. Very important thing, they are providing a guide, data sets if you want to download for your pattern mining. Okay, so for each and everything, as I have told, algorithms for each and every algorithm, association, rule mining algorithms, sequential pattern mining algorithms, what are the various data sets we can use? For all these algorithms, the implementation is also available. But only thing is, it is in your Java framework. Okay, those are interested in doing your pattern mining or research, if you're using your Java, you can make use of this framework. Okay, so data sets are available for your pattern mining, item set mining, everything. Okay, so the thing here. So download, you can go and see. In that, you'll be having 2 different versions. So one is a GUI version. So I'll show you that GUI version also. So 1 minute, I will take it and I will show it. So this is the software I have downloaded actually. So which you can download here. SPM of jar file, you can download it. Okay. So that is the jar file that I have downloaded. Another one is going to be the test files zip. This is going to be the test files. I have extracted it. Test files means it will be having all the things, the programs. Okay. So test files, it contains all your data sets. They will be giving a sample data set. For example, if you are having a priori, okay, context, I'll show it. First, I will execute this. So nothing else is needed. So you have to click it. Okay, you download it and you click it. So automatically you will be getting this guide. Right. So here, what you have to do is which algorithm you have to implement. So all the algorithms you will be having it. Tools, various tools you have it. A priori. Suppose I want to execute a priori and I want to see the result means you can select a priori. So you have to choose what is the data set. Okay, choose input file. That input file also they have given. That only it is available in your test file. Okay. So it is in your test files. So I will take. So if you want to see what is the input and output for it, the documentation is available. For each algorithm, suppose this is a priori, right? So you can click it. They will say what is the file you have to run, what is the data set available, right? Where we have to store all the information. They have given a nice example for each and everything also. You can make use of it. Now the file name is context passware, right? So I will search for context passware. Here I'm having it. So I will take it. This is going to be the input file. I will open that file also.
Madam, sorry for disturbance.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we have limited time. We given time to participant to ask any question, madam. That's why asking.
Okay, sir. I will show one
Yeah.
example for it.
Yes, yes.
So
Okay.
that they can work easily.
Okay.
After that, we can stop it. So we are having context password. I'll open it and show to you. So this is the input they have given. So what you can do is instead of giving context password, whatever they have given, if you are having your own data set, so that also you can browse it. Okay, so to whatever location you want to, wherever you're having a data set, you can select it and you can give it as an input. Then we have to give where my output must be stored, right? So there also I'm going to have it. This is my sample output. I will put it dot text. This is a file where my frequent item set is going to be stored. Output file we have to specify it. Then we have to give what is the support we give for our application. If I'm giving it for 0.4, 0.4 means depending upon the number. This is going to be relative support. So here it is optional. Sometimes for a specific application, I may be interested in only length 3 items. I don't want length for one frequent items and all means you can give it as 2 or 3 or anything. If you want all items, you leave it as blank. Then I can run the algorithm. Automatically, it will give the output of your a priori. It is one example. This is output of your a priori, right? So similarly, any algorithm. So we have FP growth also we are having it. Eclat algorithm we are having it. FP growth we are having it. All the different algorithms. For everything, the thing is available. Another one is there. So where we have your coding files. As I have told you, this is your guide. So if you are not interested in coding, I want to execute and see alone means you can make use of this. Or otherwise, if I want to make modification in the coding, I want to know what are the contents of it, what is the Java coding of it. So then what we have to do is we have to download this version, spmf.zip, and we have to extract it into your Eclipse environment. So in your Eclipse environment, you can download it. So 1 minute, it will be taking time. So what we have to do is we have to create a Java project and we have to copy and paste that particular framework. So we'll be having a source folder. So all the things will be exported like this. So here, if you see here, all the algorithms expansions, all the algorithm codings we have. Suppose I want to see the codings for your a priori also, we can see it. It is a coding for your a priori, algo a priori. So this is a Java coding that is available. If you think that you want to do you take it as a scratch, in that I want to take do some modification, means this coding you can take it. In that you can perform whatever changes you can do it, and you can see the output easily. Okay, so this is the algorithm that is available. So the main program for executing this, it is available in your SPMF test. You will be having here, it is SPMF test is going to be there. This, it contains the main, okay, Java main you will be having it, right? So if you are seeing here, this is the class that contains the main program. So one nothing we have to do it. Okay, so what we have to do is, if I want to run it, you take this file, you run it, automatically it will be running and it will be giving you the result. It's not needed, we have to develop from the scratch. For all these algorithms, the codings are available. It is an open source. Okay, anyone can download it, they can modify it, and you can see the result. Okay, so if any questions are there, you can ask.
Madam,
Sir?
yes, madam. Actually, you given the topic excellent, but you given the only example open source on SPM, you know, this is,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes,
we
sir.
are having only Excel data in all
Yes,
the
sir.
categories. Whether it
Yes.
is possible to applicable to the cluster, we want to the cluster, how to make it, whether it is available in the open source software.
So they have given only for pattern mining, they have given all the things, sir.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
For pattern mining, all the algorithms are available. Right?
Okay.
So for that algorithms, we can make use of it. For that alone, the coding is available. For clustering, I think few clustering algorithms we are having. DB-scan, clustering algorithms also there. We are having partitioning. See, we are having clustering. K-means clustering, DB-scan clustering, and all we are having. We can do it. We can make use of it.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Any question from participants, please? This is your time. You can ask any question, so you can clarify any regarding session related questions.
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, can this application be useful in service industries like healthcare, banking, and all, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Sure. So wherever they need to identify the frequent drug and all, we can use it. So what are the drugs that are frequently bought? So in which order the drugs are being given? So for all the things, it can be used.
Okay, in the pharmacy side, but how about in banking and all, ma'am? How we can apply this one?
In banking sector, the
Like
application.
if there are frequency in loans queries or anything, if it is applied, then I guess it can be useful, right, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
So if
Thank you.
I'm having a particular scheme, the particular scheme is used by most of the people, customer, we can easily identify it. Some schemes may not be used by the customers. We can identify what is the reason behind it. So it becomes infrequent, right, ma'am?
Right.
So we can see what is the
Okay.
reason behind it.
Yes, but you like never came across like this kind of application is used by banks, but probably it will be useful, I guess.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, it will be
Yes.
useful.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Anything else from participants? Because we have no time, so we have lunch time. If it is any query, please raise questions. Otherwise, we can wind up the session and we go for next session after lunch. Yes. Dr. Muniswaran sir. Dr. Muniswaran sir. Yes. Okay, madam. Madam, okay, yes. Thank you for coming and taking excellent topic, and I hope everybody enjoy the one, and it is very useful for future reference and how to manage, how to using the such a kind of information during the risk and challenge time. So very thank you and everyone for coming and cooperate with us. Thank you for thank you all
Thank you.
once again.